Hello again, everybody, and welcome to the Mike Francesa podcast, part of the Bet Rivers Network. We come to you on this Wednesday. Remember, a big week 2 in the NFL. They're all big. And this one's got some interesting twists and turns. So get ready for a Football Friday and everything that comes with that. As always, we have a couple of things to promote. But before I do that, I'm sitting down, obviously, as I come down to the studio, and I just got the news. I was watching the news upstairs like a lot of people were. Um, we've all seen what the news has wrought today. And, I've spent my life in sports, and I try not to too often get involved in the real world or get involved in politics because, hey, all it does is divide your audience because everyone has different feelings and different beliefs, especially in these incredibly intense, heated times. Okay, I thought the '60s were bad. These make the '60s look like it was, a lot easier than I thought. But you wonder where we are right now, where the division and when you look at things from a vantage point of having the advantage of years, which gives you more common sense, and you might step back and take a look at things a little more rationally and a little more patiently than you might have at a younger age. The problem now is that one side doesn't even hear the other side. And the other part of it is in this world of social media and in this world of AI and everything that is advancing from a technological standpoint so quickly, we have completely lost any value being placed on the truth. One side just says it's not true, fake news. The other side dismisses what one side says. So now there aren't even facts that can quiet an argument, settle an argument, help solve an argument, because one side now will never, ever accept the other side's truth. Now, the truth sometimes is in the middle, sometimes the truth is a little bit on both sides, but now there is no truth because we don't accept anything as being factual anymore. So if you start from a standpoint of nothing being real and nothing being factual, well, how are you ever going to get anywhere? Add to that the answer now being violence on such a regular basis, and it permeating our schools and now our churches. You just shake your head and you just wonder where it's all headed. When you talk to people who are contemporaries of mine, we just shake our heads and say, hey, especially those of us that have kids, where are we going? And, when you see days like today, you don't know where we're going, to be honest with you. And that's why I've always liked what we have in the world of sports, because yes, we're the toy department. No one will dispute that we are, but we serve a very, very necessary, very, very necessary part of the human condition, because there has to be a release. There has to be a place where you can go and yell and scream and cheer and tease and deride, and most of the time in good natured, and it not be anything except about wins and losses. And right now we're in a pennant race. we're coming down the stretch in baseball, and think about it. We'll treat it. Many fans will treat it as almost this life and death experience when really we know what life and death's about. Unfortunately, we keep being confronted with it on a daily basis, which is very sad. It really is. But it's there to provide a release, a diversion, and it's one that this country cares a great deal about. And I think it performs a very therapeutic release. I really do. I think it's important from the standpoint of, yes, does it matter in the long run? Of course not. Even though we act like it does. And some of us act incredibly like it does. But it does serve a purpose. It really does, to be able to get wrapped up in a ball game for a couple hours, especially on a day like today where after you've watched this for a while, you just want to get away from it. Because within 2 hours, it's back to the same blame game. One side blaming the other side. It's the other side's fault. It's their fault. It's this, it's that, it's this, it's that. And this is on a day tomorrow where we remember. And I was driving today and somebody was interviewing somebody about 9/11. And I thought back 24 years and how my day started and how my day unfolded and how my remembering of that day is just still so vivid. It's 24 years tomorrow. And in the backdrop of this, how far have we gone, or how far have we regressed in the last 24 years? You know, you always hear people mention, and September weather is always beautiful. Today wasn't a great day because I played golf today. It was kind of drizzly and dank and damp and windy, but so many September days are bright and crisp and sunny. And that one on 9/11 was a beautiful day. And I remember getting dressed, and I was actually getting ready to go to the fan, and I was walking around the room talking to my accountant on a speakerphone while I was getting dressed. And he said, "Turn on the news. Did you see something just ran into the Trade Center?" I'm like, "What are you talking about? How could something run into the Trade Center? What is it, a spaceship?" And he goes, "No, I'm serious." So I turn it on, and I'm trying to figure out exactly what happened. And while we're watching, the second plane hits the building. And obviously we knew where we were. We didn't know what we were or what was going on, but we knew what was happening. Even though we didn't at that point understand the gravity of what was happening, we didn't know exactly what was actually striking the buildings. And that day was so different. By the time I got from my house to where I usually got off, if you know the city, I would get off on Hoyt Avenue, which is the last exit before you go over the bridge, and then take 31st Ave down under the L, and then make a left turn and go into Fan. We had a big complex there. We were in Astoria then, not in New York City. We were in Astoria. And the Kaufman Astoria studio. And when I got to Hoyt, I got off the exit, and it was backed up. And it was already barricaded. They weren't letting anybody, because from Hoyt, you could take that and go over to Queensboro Bridge into the city. Well, they had already closed that off. they had closed off every entrance to the city already. They had closed off the bridges. They had closed off anywhere that you could access across the river. You could not get into the city. So I got to the side and I rolled down the window and I said to the cop, and the cop said, "Hey, you can't." And then another cop came up to the window who knew me and he said, "Mike, you got to turn around and go back to Long Island." And I said, "I got to get to the fan." And he said, "There's no way for you to get to the fan. You can't even get to the top of the exit." And I said, "Listen, I got to get to the fan." So they let me get to the top of the 31st Avenue. And the guy said, "Listen, I'm going to slide the barricade and just don't stop until you get into the parking lot at a fan." And he let me through, and which was very nice. There was already no traffic anywhere. I got into we had our own parking lot there at FAN. And then I got in the building, and Imus was still on the air. It was like 22, about a quarter to 11. And Chernoff came into me and said, "Dog can't get in." Dog was in the cane. He couldn't get. There's no way for him to get to New York. So he said, Chernoff said, "Are you ready to go in for Imus?" I said, "Yes. Give me a couple of minutes to try and get my bearings here. Watch what I can kind of give me like 10 minutes." And then I went in and took over. And we had I said, "Let's just," and this is how I went through the day. I said, "Let's just tell them what we know. And then tell them, here's what we know, here's what we don't know. There's a lot more that we don't know than we do know." And I was on the air until about 10:45 that night, from about 10 to 11 in the morning, by myself. But I did have Warner Wolf checked in a couple of times from the city. He was an eyewitness to what was going on down there. Charles McCord was in the building, and he came in with me a couple of times and sat with me for about a half hour at a time, a couple of times. I heard from policemen, firemen who were calling in and giving me some, a view of what was going on. No official people spoke that day. You couldn't get anybody on who had anything. They were all too busy to come on. Nobody had time to come on. I did speak to a doctor, a friend of mine, who was a surgeon, who said to me, "Mike, we got called in to be ready." And he said, "They told us be ready for, people to be flooding in to here, get every doctor we can call, every surgeon we can call." And they all stood around and watched each other because there was nobody to help. So they didn't see anybody. There was no surgeries to perform. There was no. They stood around and looked. I looked at each other, and he called me and said, "We haven't seen anybody," because obviously, from what we knew, from what had happened, there was not going to be the people who were attacked were not going to be able to survive in any way. Not in what we knew turned out to be, the intense heat that we know and the collapse of the buildings. And I remember driving home that night. I had people who couldn't get out of New York, including Bill Parcells, who was staying at my house that night because he was supposed to fly out that day and he couldn't. So he came and stayed at my house, and he was staying with my wife and my family while I was working until I got home, and he stayed at our house that night. And we had a bunch of people who couldn't get out of town who were staying at our house. And I drove home around 10. I left about 10:30, 10:45. And I remember it like it was yesterday. That drive is about could be an hour and 20 minutes or an hour and a half on a bad day. That drive took about 20 minutes, maybe 15, and I probably could have made it faster if I wanted to because I did not see one car either heading towards the city or coming from the city the entire time, the entire way home. Not one car. Now, I'm sure there was a vehicle, someone from Long Island, a policeman, a fireman at some point who was driving along that road to get to somewhere where they had to go. But in the minutes that I was on the road, maybe 20 something minutes, 25 minutes, because there was no traffic. And remember, there's no lights or anything on the road I'm on the LIE or the Grand Central. I could take either one. I don't remember what I took that night. I think I took the LIE. And there was no traffic. Obviously, there was nothing going into the city. There was nothing coming from the city. This is now 13 hours after the fact. And when I came out in Astoria, which if you know, went by air to the Twin Towers is probably 6 miles away from Astoria, maybe 6, 7 miles. You could smell that odor that was so pervasive. You could smell it very intensely that night when you came out of the building to walk the block to the parking lot. And that's 24 years ago. And then you remember how amazing the city was, everyone helping everyone, all the athletes doing whatever they could, people, everyone cheering the first responders and helping everybody and everyone, the goodwill and everything else, and everyone pulling together and everything that went on in the days that followed. And then you think of where we are today, where tomorrow we'll go through all these rituals, the remembrances. I saw that the president's supposed to be at Yankee Stadium tomorrow night. I don't know if this changes his plans at all, what happened today. He was last night. They said on the Yankee game that he was going to be at the game tomorrow night because he's doing something in Midtown. All the remembrances that go on every year, and you think of where the country is 24 years later. Just turn on the news tonight if you want to see where the country is 24 years later. And where have we gone? Nowhere good. All right, back to the diversion of the pennant race. I said it a couple of weeks ago. I said, and I felt pretty confident about what I said. I said that I didn't think there was any chance the Mets were going to win the division, and they're not. But I didn't think they would have any trouble making the playoffs. I told you that the Yankees would be locked into the playoffs a week before the season ended, and I still feel that way. And I didn't think they'd win the division. And they were as close as 2 games last night. And then last night, they played another one of those innings where you just sit there and say, what is it with this team? How many of those bizarre occurrences have you seen from this team this year where you say, they have any idea how to play this game? Everyone made a big deal about that. 16-6, or they won. They've been on fire. They've been playing well. Hey, they beat Houston 2 out of 3. They beat the Blue Jays 2 out of 3. But for the most part, all they had done before that was beat up on really bad teams, and they've been really good at mauling bad teams this year because they have so much power and they have some pitching, and you add those two things, and they maul bad teams. And they have been terrible against good teams. And they have especially been awful against Toronto and Boston, who they will see this weekend. They have 2 more games with the Tigers. They have 3 games in Boston this weekend. And then they see bad teams again. Although the Orioles are playing better, and they do see Orioles 7 out of their last 10. And they see Minnesota, and they see the White Sox. And they play 13 games against bad teams, losing teams. But they do have 7 games with the Orioles, who could be a little bit of a thorn on their side. They are going to the postseason. Right now, they are 3 behind. They're tied with the Red Sox, and it's pivotal that they get one of 2 slots. They don't have to win the division, but they do need to get home games, which means they have to finish in the right place in the wild card. So they have to play well those last 13 games. If they can play 500 these next, and they've done that so far, they're 4-3 in the 7 games they've played of the Big 12 they were going to play in a row. They've played 7 of them. They're 4-3. They have 2 with the Tigers. I don't know yet who's pitching tomorrow. It's Scooble's day. I don't know if he's pitching tomorrow. I haven't heard that yet. They've left it blank. I keep looking, and they don't have anybody pitching tomorrow. I don't know if they're throwing Scooble tomorrow. They're not. I don't know that. Obviously, it makes a difference. Then they go to Boston. They right now are 3 behind Toronto. But really, they're 4 behind Toronto because they lose the tiebreaker to Toronto. So they can't finish tie with them. If they do, they lose the division. So they're not 3 behind Toronto. They're 4 behind Toronto. And they have every day, and that was a big win for Toronto last night. Toronto's losing that game late. They come back and take the lead. They come back and win the game and rally and win the game. And that was a very big win for them last night, without any question. Yankees are going to the postseason. We know that. This weekend will have a big say as to where they're going to finish in the wild card and where their position is going to be if they don't win the division. They have an outside chance to win the division. I don't think having to beat them by 4 games the rest of the way, I don't think they'll win the division. They possibly could, but I have no problem, no question that they are going to the postseason. It's not even that they're going to the postseason is not even a debatable issue. Okay, we know that. We know that without any question. They have a 6-game lead in the loss column. So it's about whether, and let's be honest, they have an outside chance if they play really well to finish with the best record in the American League because it's very tight. Toronto has 83 wins. Detroit has 83 wins. Houston has 78 wins, and the Yankees and the Red Sox have 80 and 81 wins, respectively. Red Sox have played 2 more games than the Yankees. The issue now is not the Yankees, although I understand you still want to see consistency. I know you wanted to see Volpe, put out the pasture. I believe the Yankees are quickly coming to a point where, and I do believe it is against everything they want to do, but I do think they are about to take the job away from them. I think they have wanted to stay away from it, I don't think it's something they want to do, but I think they are getting very close to where they will do it. But the Yankee issues are different than the Met issues. The Yankees are going to the postseason. The question is, how advantageous will their position be when they get there? The Mets, despite the infusion of young pitching talent, and that has given them a big lift, have again hit a dry patch here. And their inconsistency is befuddling. While last year they finished the season with this almost magical little karma that they created, okay? I mean, I'm not into holding up all the signs and all that nonsense, but the Mets, let's be honest, they were really good in the clutch last year. They had a little bit of magic to them. This year they have anything but that. And it's almost like, while you cannot criticize much about Soto's performance, I mean, when you look at the numbers, they're going to be outstanding. Has he had a year as good as his numbers? No, he has not. To be fair, he has not, because he has not dominated or meant enough victories for them in big spots with the bat as you would have expected, because he has been historically a very clutch player. He's had his moments. His numbers are going to be, let's be honest, they're going to be outstanding. He can lead the league in walks, he can lead the league in on-base percentage, he's going to hit 40 home runs, he's going to knock in a bunch, he's going to score a whole bunch, he's going to be second in runs scored probably. The bottom line is he's got the numbers. But there's something missing with this team. There's been something missing all year. They can't get all the pieces in the same direction at the same time. And now, while I never thought they were winning the division, and now the division is long gone, they face a tough schedule. They have the Phils 2 more times starting tonight. They have the Rangers for 3 games. They have San Diego for 4 games. And, their lesser opponents include 7 games with the Marlins, who give them fits and historically have given them fits. As we know, some of their worst losses have come to the Marlins. They now find themselves starting the day 2 games up on the Giants, who are down 5-0 as we speak today to Arizona. The Reds are 3 behind. I don't think the Reds are mature enough, despite the brilliance of Francona. And you know what I think of Francona as a manager. I think he's the best manager in baseball. I think he's one of the great managers in modern baseball. I have the utmost, yes, he's a friend, but I have the utmost respect for him as a manager. But to me, they are not ready yet. And you saw it, when you saw it in the Diaz game. Their at-bats with the bases loaded were so ridiculously bad. Especially De La Cruz. I mean, just so bad that game to me illustrated everything that you want to see, that they just are not ready. Now, they're not a bad team. They have some talent. They have some pitching. They have some players, but I don't think they are ready. The Giants, what a peculiar year. To peel off your players as they did, get rid of your players as they did, and then go into the deepest of slumps when they got Devers and turn around and have this run is highly unusual. And I found it because I picked the Giants. I wagered on the Giants as one of my overs this year. Over 79 wins. And So I have followed them, and I thought I was dead 2 weeks ago when they just went into an incredible skid, and then they come flying back. Now today they're losing right now. But the Mets have now taken it to the point where they have brought the idea of not making the postseason into play. And I'm gonna tell you though, I think they're gonna make the postseason. I think they're going to get enough out of the kid pitchers, and I think they're going to have one more hot spot, one more hot roll, 5 or 6 games where they play really well, and that should be enough to carry them home because they're a very weird team, and they've been a bad team now for months. Something's missing. You hear rumblings, Lindor and Soto don't get along. I don't know. I have no idea if that's true. I have 0 idea if that's so. It was Lindor's team. Is Soto jealous of him? I mean, is Lindor jealous of Soto? I don't know. I don't know. I have no idea. Baseball players don't have to love each other to play together. They have to fit the pieces into the right spots. I told you all along to leave Vientos alone and let him play. And I was dead on about that. I have been very wrong about Mullins. I thought Mullins would do the job here. I always thought he was a gamer. And he's been very disappointing. See, McMahon, who I wanted here in the worst way, hasn't been great with the bat, but he's had a couple of clutch at bats. Strikes out way too much, but he's been brilliant in the field. And he has solidified that side of the infield. Mullins has brought none of that. So he needs to fight his way back in. I can't even tell you to play him every day now because it's just not right. Because if you're asking me, I've always liked McNeil. So if you're going to put McNeil in center field, I can't argue with that. I would, if I'm them, as I told you all along, Vientos is the DH every day. I play Beatty. I play McNeil. If you want to play McNeil in center because you don't want to put Mullins in the lineup, I can live with it. I would put McNeil at second base and put Mullins in center field and give him a chance to play. They might not do that. I can't argue with it. They don't because he's been really bad. I think they have one more run in them, but I did not think they would take it down to where they are now, to where they at least have opened the door to not making the playoffs at all, which will be a terrible, absolutely terrible, really a dreadful, dreadful collapse for them. One that this owner will not know what to do with. And he might overreact dramatically because this will really sit badly with him. It would be a terrible collapse if they don't make the postseason. I think they will. The Yankees are a lock. I wanted to call the Mets a lock, but I can't now. But if you're asking me right now, do I think the Mets will make it? I do. A, I don't think the Giants are that good. B, I don't think the Reds are ready. I think that's going to help the Mets a lot. And the Mets now can forget about any nonsense about the Phillies and worry about solidifying a wild card spot and making the postseason and taking it from there. And the first thing the Mets have to do is stop thinking about reclamating starting pitchers. I don't care if they're veterans or not. Right now, pitch the guys who deserve to pitch, and that's it. Pitch the guys who deserve to pitch, play the guys who deserve to play, and knock off any other nonsense. That's what has to happen now. They are better than these teams. If they don't make it, it would really be now we've seen the Mets historically have some incredible collapses. including one that we all remember that was one that we reacted to quite, vociferously. That was a collapse for the ages. I think they'll make it. I really do. But they've already allowed the Giants to knock on the door more than I thought they would. The Giant bats so far today are very quiet. So it looks like Mets will start the evening 2.5 in front as of right now because the Giants are down 5-0 to the Diamondbacks. Game's not over though. So we'll see where that takes us. Like we said, we got a lot of football. It was a very eventful week one. I mean, there are some week ones that are okay. This was a very eventful week one where you had some teams utterly collapse. I mean, is there anybody who was watching the Raven-Bills game who thought there was a chance that the Ravens weren't winning that game in the fourth quarter? They ran over the Bills like they were a high school team. And then the Bears, they had that game over. I mean, you cannot commit that many mistakes as the Bears did. And I know Ben Johnson said after the game, I told the kicker what to do. Hey, if there's any doubt in your mind that your kicker cannot stand in there and without any question in that spot, boot the ball in the stands. If he can't do that, if you aren't 100% guaranteed that leg is strong enough to do that, then kick the ball out of bounds because you cannot allow them to return the kick. Return the kick, the game's over. It cannot even come up. Give them the ball on the 40. It's the only chance you have. If not, I don't even like to say kick the onside kick because they've ruined the onside kick. If you get the onside kick now, it's just pure luck. They have completely destroyed the onside kick. So, I mean, to me, the onside kick is not even a factor anymore. In the old days, you waited around. Hey, they have a good onside kick. Oh, this is going to put some pressure. Get the hands team out there. You'd see some recoveries. Now, never happens. Kick the ball out of bounds. Did you understand, folks, that if they returned the kick, which they were going to bring it out, you saw O'Connell is a good coach. I mean, they won that game because the Bears committed 9,000 penalties, including a third down pass interference, which was a terrible call. But be that as it may, they made so many mistakes, you can't take it down to one play. Their coaching staff really just schooled, offensively and defensively, just schooled the Bears. You understand he's coaching his first game, but that Minnesota staff is good. They're good play callers, and they're very good defensive play callers. You saw him Flores let the Bears get comfortable in the first half. And then when the game was on the line, he made them very uncomfortable. And they didn't have time to adjust. He did a couple of very smart things. But if you're Ben Johnson, I don't care. That's on you. That's not on your kicker. Unless you automatically know that your kicker's got a leg where he can put it in the stands and kick it out of bounds. Ugh. But that, you got injuries to key guys. You got teams that had really incredibly poor performances. You had teams that had surprisingly good performances. You got the Chiefs playing the Eagles. Imagine if the Chiefs go 0-2 and then get the Giants at 0-2. It's going to be fun for the Giants, won't it? Very interesting week number 2 coming up. So be ready for that. And on this eve of 9/11. If you're so inclined, say a prayer for the country because it sure needs it. We could all use it. Need as much help as we can possibly get. Now, let me tell you about a couple of goodies, and then we'll be on our way and get ready for a big football weekend. Okay? Let me get to the goodies. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Where are they? I had them here. There we go. Number one. Now, the Bet Rivers football squares. We tell them about you all the time. We tell you about them all the time. Players who place a qualifying same game parlay of at least $10 on eligible NFL or NCAA football games will receive one standard entry into the weekly squares. You can get one, you can get two, you can get three, you can get four. Okay, based on the size of your wager. Winning standard squares will be awarded, and you get bonus plays, and you could get some big bonus plays. See app and website for more details. I always tell you about the newsletter. Sign up for the free. Anything that's free you like, the Mike Francesa newsletter. You get content, contests, goodies, other things, great offers. Go to MikeFrancesapodcast.com. Sign up. Doesn't cost you a thing. Just go to MikeFrancesapodcast.com and sign up. We'll see you later.